Good morning. It's Wednesday, March 31st. And the last couple of days I've been ranting about things that have affected this nation, in my opinion, on the wrong side. I have claimed that we are not so great anymore. And every time I turn around and I'm hoping for a light at the end of the tunnel, perhaps, or a change, or something wonderful happens, I get exactly the opposite. So in Arkansas, they signed a law, the governor signed a law that would allow medical doctors and others in the medical profession to refuse to treat someone because of moral or religious objections. There is no way to explain this law except to say that this is a brazen attempt to make it easier to discriminate against people and to deny many in Arkansas the health care services that they need. Now, the law states not in emergency cases, but in general. Now, who is to say what's a moral objection? It's basically an attack on the LGBTQ community, the transgenders, the homosexuals. It's an attack on that community, supposedly. But what if the doctor doesn't like the way that person looks, or doesn't like the way that person walks, or doesn't like the way that person, ties their shoelaces or combs their hair, and what if they're black or green or yellow or some other thing? And he refuses because he thinks or he's prepared to say they're of the transgender variety, and I'm not going to treat them. There should be no such law. There should be no reason for a doctor to refuse to treat somebody, unless perhaps they really can't help them. And in that case, they send them to somebody who can help them. This is an affront. This is an affront on our democracy, and I don't want to hear anybody tell me that this country is not deteriorating. Now, of course, this law is not going to take place until the midsummer, but it doesn't matter when it takes place. Just the mere fact that they would pass such a law is a horrible thing. Allowing somebody to have a conscience, and based upon that conscience they make a decision, is that right? Next thing is, I don't want to treat anybody who's below the age of X or is taller than Y. It's madness. It's madness. That's what's creeping across this country. And that's why we have so many troubles. We can't make up our mind, and we allow ridiculous things like this to happen. Now, I have listened to Asa Hutchinson talk, and he sounds like a reasonable man. And I was amazed that he was the governor of Arkansas, because in my mind, Arkansas is not one of the great states in this country. It is true that they did produce Bill Clinton, and many could argue that that's not such a great thing either. Now, Hutchinson claims that this legislation will not breach any federal discrimination laws. I find that hard to believe. I cannot believe that legislation of this type does not breach a federal discrimination law. It's blatant. How can you allow medical personnel, who are those who are supposed to save lives, how can you allow them to make decisions based upon their religious beliefs or their moral beliefs? That has to be a violation of some federal discrimination law. It's going to be very interesting because all of the human rights organizations are probably licking their lips right now. This is another opportunity for a major lawsuit. They will be out there defending the rights of the LGBTQ community and the rights of all other individuals that might be affected by this law. And this is a bad example that Arkansas has set, because there are many states that are going to be watching this thing closely. And you can bet your ass that those states will do the same thing if Arkansas gets away with this. So just based upon that, based upon allowing Arkansas to set this example, they have to be taken to court. They have to get this case before the Supreme Court. This is not a simple little backdoor law that we could all look away from. This law has to be fought, and fought hard. This is like opening the door to hell, if there is such a place. And don't these people have a conscience? How do you become a medical professional if you're not prepared to treat everyone? I would think the AMA should be up in arms. I haven't heard them say a word. It's a disgrace if the AMA doesn't stand up and say, this is wrong. We are not going to do this. We are not going to allow our conscience to prevent us from treating anybody. We have sworn to the Hippocratic Oath. We have sworn to treat the sick to the best of our ability and to preserve patient privacy and teach the secrets of medicine to the next generation. That's the Hippocratic Oath. There's no leeway in that oath. There's no reason to avoid treating anybody in that oath. So we are going back centuries and defying that oath if we let this law stand. And that's all I want to say about this. This has to be defeated. So I will see you in the morning. Bye.